For some reason, Misfits just come out of the gate swinging, but then they just run out of gas towards the end of the split.
And the biggest surprise of summer is Misfits Gaming.
They look fantastic, especially against the bottom tier teams. I think this weekend's going to prove a lot, though.
When are they going to drop all these games?
While they are on a good streak right now, that doubt still looms.
They went 0-2.
I'm not really sure why Misfits is always a mediocre team. I mean, I guess just because their players were not the best in their roles. They're usually in G2 or Fnatic.
Most of the times, like I have been playing in Misfits, when we go downfall, it usually is because something changes, right?
We have decided to play and produce the remainder of the spring split 100% remotely online.
I'm turning off the heat.
Misfits are dead, and Vitality have killed off any hopes the Rabbits had of making playoffs.
We didn't play from stage, we started playing online, and then we all felt like we were playing Wars. Now it's kind of the reverse. Hopefully this split is like we keep playing good and winning.
Fnatic on a rampage, Fnatic on the run towards Misfits. Vander goes in, Vetheo's dominating. Kobbe dives in with the kill instinct as well. And Vander may have just turned this fight on its head with a single headbutt. A second quadra of the game.
Misfits are melting through Shulker. That's one, 2 quick kills, make it 3. They're going to turn around onto Broken Blade. Can they get the 4th? And it is null fear to Misfits.
Despite some inconsistencies, they're looking like a top team, even though last split, they didn't even make playoffs.
I think we actually have a good shot beating G2 because last time we actually won with like 10k gold behind.
Misfits, they're making it work. Caps on the run. Kobbe the back line. Elder Dragon doing work. Burned down 1 by 1. Misfits were 10k down, but the Elder Dragon wins them the fight. Misfits make a miracle happen. I'm absolutely shocked. How did they find that?
If we actually won't be 10k gold behind, then we actually have a higher chance to win, right?
Last time we actually should have won, but we just let it slip through our hands. Every team that we lost to that could technically be around the same wins as us could make it, so the tiebreaker goes in their favor. I feel like we need to win every rematch that we have against a team that we lost before.
Bloodbath is back and forth, but for now, it is G2 an advantage. Big damage coming in from Crown Jump, but it's not enough. The CC is there, Mikyx is there, Jankos is there, G2 is here, and G2 will take the fight.
It's always really tough to play against team like G2 because they're always dangerous, even if they are losing. You don't really know which G2 you're gonna face, because even when they have worse times or worse periods, they can still have insane games.
The reason this game's exciting, G2 was embarrassed the last time they played against Misfits. And it's because it's Misfits' final test. There's only 1 week left after this before playoffs. And if they can put in a statement like beating G2, then they're up for a good run.
Welcome back to Berlin, Germany. The stage is set for our match of the week as G2 and Misfits Gaming face off on the LEC stage. Now, the Rabbits have already secured their spot in playoffs, but they're now looking to get another win versus G2 as if the first win was not insulting enough, Cadrel.
Oh man, that game, what a banger. That was the craziest thing. We were casting it. The fact that it even happened is mind-blowing already, but I think this is just a great test for Misfits, right? I haven't said it in the match of the week video, but I genuinely think that there's only 1 more week left of regular season. Then you have the week of break in terms of just scrimming, and then you're straight into playoffs. So it's a good test for them, for sure.
And Christy, I want to know for you, what do you feel like is different about the Misfits in this split that has allowed them to qualify for playoffs as a quick hit before we get into the matchup itself?
Well, honestly, it's the whole top side of the map. You know, Kobbe and Vander, you know they're going to show up and do their job, but for HiRit, Razork, and Vetheo, every single one of those players has stepped up in a big way this season. And, you know, it's about playing around the top side for Razork, too, playing towards those solo lanes that help set them up so well.
And one of those solo lanes, obviously the mid lane, Vetheo, on an absolute tear in some of the games recently. Masterclass on the Ryze performance yesterday. Have to see if he can repeat it because mid-jungle is the focus. Every segment we can talk about mid-jungle, we talk about mid-jungle. Bot laners don't care. Top laners don't care. Mid-jungle is the LEC way.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier on, and I think that both these mid-jungles are strong in different ways, where both can play the same kind of playstyle that they have, but they both play specific ways around it. So let me try to give an example. Vetheo and Razork. Razork will play for Vetheo, but they won't play so much for ganks or setup towards mid from the game that I've seen. It's more about unlocking Vetheo on the map so they can roam towards the side lanes and actually snowball the team. So it's more of a, I will hold your hand, you come with me, we're going to snowball side lanes after getting you the push. So it works for them. It doesn't mean to say they can't gank mid, but that's exactly what G2 do. Jankos ganks mid always from top side or bot side, and Mikyx on the opposite side of it if it's past the early game. Obviously in the early game, Jankos on XinZhao early in the split, early ganks towards mid is what he likes to do. The pincer movement, classic from G2 to get caps rolling. So on one end, you've got one team that wants to get their mid laner ahead, the other, you want to get your mid laner out of lane.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think recently too, sorry about that. The delay sometimes difficult, but recently too with Wunder playing a lot of like weak side champions, I do feel like too like so much of that focus has been like, yeah, don't even worry about that lane. It is just running into that mid lane, making sure caps can get ahead, because I feel like for G2 with caps ahead, with caps unlocked, that is when they're finding the most success.
Absolutely is. And of course, looking back more at depth at the G2 side, Nelson obviously one of the big additions behind the scenes. We wanted to take a look at some of the G2 drafts just to see if there's anything different, if there's anything that stood out, anything crazy that we needed to keep our eyes on, because we've seen a lot more flashy champions. But overall, gentlemen, not saying this is 100% a Nelson thing, because I think that's probably unfair, but what do you see about G2's drafts in these last few games that really stand out to you?
So G2's drafts have been very different throughout the whole year, but these are the games I believe when Nelson was on the stage or just actually helping them in the draft itself. But I think there's a lot of innovation coming in, or like difference, the things that we don't actually see. So what you actually saw there was Rekkles is playing Kalista. They're playing Sejuani top, which we haven't actually seen anyone else play. They're willing to go for Vayne lanes, you know, they're willing to just put risks in the draft. So it's great to see the innovation coming out from G2 itself, because when we think of G2 in their prime time success, it was flexes everywhere, it was off meta picks, things that people really didn't expect that they were very comfortable on. So experimenting is always good in the regular split, will help them going towards playoffs, which is what I like to see.
Yeah, we also are seeing 2 LeBlanc games very recently for Caps too, which I know is a pick that has caught on pretty huge over in the LPL. I got to cast LPL recently, so I saw some of that, which was a lot of fun. But seeing sort of that inspiration come over for Caps being very successful on that champion too is definitely a good look for the team.
Absolutely is. Chris, you're an international man of mystery. You're casting every league in the world. I got to respect it, certainly the same way that Misfits have to respect G2 and vice versa after the crazy match they had last time. We're now ready to kick off the match of the week as G2 and Misfits hit the Rift in our final game.
It's you, Vedi.
Welcome back, everyone. I did say, Medic, you need to do this intro.
And I said, no, you should do it.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Okay.
Well, that makes a lot more sense.
That intro sucked.
That intro did.
Let's go. G2 versus Misfits. Huge game for both these teams. Misfits still fighting to get to first. Rogue, of course, 1 win ahead of them. But if Misfits win this, they will tie Rogue in first place at the end of week 7. G2, if they win, though, they qualify for playoffs and will be fighting for one of those top 4 spots.
They certainly will be, and I think this is a big revenge match for G2 as well, because a couple of weeks ago, when a lot of the criticism was levied towards G2, this was one of the games where many people thought that they were going to be back on track. You know, they had a pretty convincing game all the way up until that Elder, which is where everything fell apart and they ended up losing to Misfits. Fortunately for them, they did end up bouncing back not too long after that. And yesterday's performance from G2 looked very promising. We saw a bit of a 1-3-1 coming out from the team. They executed very well. They played through side lanes very well. But Jankos really did come up clutch in the jungle. And I'm happy that we did hear from the analyst desk about that mid-jungle duo, because Razork is someone that you always have to talk about when you look at the Misfits squad. He is so impactful in the early game, and then yesterday in their Vitality game, it was a very close back and forth, a big slugfest, but ultimately it came down to finding those picks onto players like Leader that allowed them to actually come out on top. So it's going to be an intense game, it's going to be a bloodbath, and it's going to be a great game to round out our week 7.
It really is, as we see both the teams on stage. Great to have them back, of course. Still feels a little bit odd to have the players on stage, I'll be honest, after being solo in this room for the last year and a half. Jankos has been giving me looks before we get on into the draft as well, trying to make me laugh as we work our way into...
Still very loud. Still very loud.
Jankos, yeah, he's always been very loud, yeah. He should become a caster in his,
oh, wow.
He retires.
You don't know if they can handle that decibel volume, Medic.
That's true. That is true. Draft on the cards for us. Final game of the day, the match of the week between Misfits and G2. We've had some Barnstormers this week, Vedi. Mad versus Rogue, of course, earlier today. Rogue Fnatic yesterday. And now we have Misfits G2 to round it out. G2 playing for the 5th playoff spot. I don't think many people would have expected 4 teams to lock playoffs before G2. but through spring and through summer, they have yet to find the form with which they dominated the league in years past. For now, though, they'll be focusing just on this one game against Misfits. We're looking to tie Rogue in first. Lucian banned, LeBlanc banned, Gwen banned, Thresh banned. So already we see 2 mid laners banned by Misfits and just a very strong player in the Gwen.
Exactly. They are attacking Caps' champion pool. On the analyst desk, they just highlighted some drafts that you've been seeing from G2 recently. What they have been going for is a very strong mid-jungle duo, and Lucian and LeBlanc are at the core of this. So immediately, Misfits want to remove it. The question is, what direction will Caps go in next after the Gwen is removed and the Thresh? Things like the XinZhao need to be considered to be taken off the table, but they're not going to be. So you imagine that will be the Razork priority unless they want the Viego for themselves.
It's very possible they'll look towards that Viego. As you say, XinZhao still an option as well. Razork's only played it once this split and didn't manage to bring home the win with it. Viego will be locked. This usually goes to HiRit in the top lane when Misfits play it.
It certainly does. You have to imagine that the XinZhao will come out from G2 and they're going to get Rekkles, his comfort Tristana, his most played champion of the split so far. And then a very quick response from Misfits, the Aphelios and the Braum. So it seems like they were anticipating that. Then again, they are going to get themselves a strong AD carry. And remember, the thing about Aphelios is he loves it when champions come into him. So when you have champions like XinZhao and Tristana both jumping into you, makes your ability to play a little bit easier. But we're still yet to see the rest of the draft. Right now with the Braum locked in, G2 could be thinking about a Rakan.
Oh, it was in my head and you were talking and I could have sounded smart, Vedius. You stole it away from me.
Well, you knew, and that's the important thing, Medic. The Rakan as an answer to the Braum. We heard Kadril talking about it a little yesterday in his cast, where the Rakan can often answer very well into the Braum because it's hard for the Braum to lock down the Rakan as he goes in. So you go in, get those short trades, and get back out, and the all-in of this bot lane is very aggressive as well.
Yeah, and alongside that, as much as Aphelios likes people going into him, if the Rakan's there charming him as the XinZhao and the Tristana jump in, it becomes a lot harder for that Aphelios to play at the game. Now we're into the second phase. No mid laners picked. A jungler picked for G2, but likely not for Misfits, although that Viego can still flex into the jungle. It's just not what Misfits usually do with the champion. Silas will be taken away, Twisted Fate removed as well.
Wow.
I wonder if we'll see things like the Zoe taken away from Vetheo as well.
Well, so I'm thinking Syndra and Ryze right now are 2 very powerful picks that both teams need to take into consideration. If I was Misfits, I would be a little bit more concerned about the Syndra, because I think Syndra Xin is very powerful in the early game in particular, and it kind of gives G2 what they like to play, which is a strong mid-jungle duo. The question is, will Misfits choose to ban it away, or will they instead believe that something is a little bit more threatening? With the Camille ban, it does suggest that G2 is maybe looking at a tank top. We have seen the Sejuani come out from Wunder, and it's going to be banned.
They're laughing.
Well. They're all laughing right now on stage. He did type in chat, I'm going to play Sejuani top. And with the Camille ban, Misfits kind of had the same read that we did, Medic, which was that she's pretty good into tanks. So it is kind of looking at Wunder potentially playing that tank in the top lane. G2 is lacking a little bit of crowd control right now. The question is, what will they go for? Orianna is the hover. Will that be locked in? And it will be. Okay, so Caps choosing to deviate a little bit away from the Syndra, wanting to offer a little bit more in terms of the late game team fighting power. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Rakan plus Orianna already in and of its own right, a very strong duo, just because it sets up for the wombo combo. Orianna also offers a little bit more late game power than a champion like Syndra can, just in terms of her utility and overall AoE damage. It's not great in the side lane. And that is why the Ryze is the thing that comes out. Now, typically, Orianna is a very good matchup into the Ryze. So, Vetheo not really setting himself up for success in terms of the 1v1. But when you get into the side lanes, that is where Ryze really starts to dominate the matchup because it's difficult for Orianna to manage.
We'll have to see how that early game mid-jungle duo really plays for both these teams. Misfits still have their jungler to pick here. Of course, as we've said, Viego could be the lock for it. It actually looks like they are going to, for the first time this split, put Razork on the Viego. Renekton top for HiRit. Wunder saving that top lane pick for last here on the side of G2. I mean, Malphite is actually pretty good into the Misfits comp if you want to do an all-in.
I really like it, into Aphelios in particular.
Gragas does a similar thing.
Wait, let's not talk about the hovers, because right now they're flipping through they're flipping through a lot of options right now.
Gangplank.
Decided on the Gangplank. Oh, okay, so Gangplank, we haven't seen a huge amount of it here in Europe, but I don't know, it's not even that long ago, but when Aphelios became really OP, right, when the 200 years meme kind of started, Gangplank was one of the primary answers. Why? Because he's a short-range AD carry. So in a team fight, when the Gangplank ultimate drops, he is immediately zoned out of the fight simply because of how much damage that thing can do to you on a short-range hyper carry. So I like the Gangplank. I think into the Renekton early levels, good Gangplank players can even come out ahead. But once you get a couple more levels under your belt, that's where Renekton starts to be a little bit more threatening. But I think the G2 have a pretty solid team fight come up. I think Misfits have a little bit more opportunity to play through their sides. I think that the mid jungle is going to be a really interesting one to watch. We already talked about it on the analyst desk, but when you also look at the early game comp, Orianna, Xin, like, Orianna not the strongest when it comes to early game 2 versus 2. Ryze offers a little bit more, but then you compare Viego to Xin. Xin does have so much more early game threat. So very interested to see who ends up coming out on top and how much investment we actually see in to this mid lane matchup. It's going to be a banger of a final game of the day. And as a reminder, G2, if they win, they will lock playoffs. Misfits, if they win, they will end Week 7 tied for first place alongside Rogue, and they need to finish as high as possible because they didn't qualify for playoffs last split. It's going to be a good one. We're jumping onto the Rift. G2 versus Misfits.
And before we jump on into the action, yesterday we said a very happy birthday to Jankos. Today we have another birthday boy on the Rift on the stage for us. HiRit, happy birthday. 23 years old today, hoping for a gift of a win here to propel Misfits up to tied first.
HiRit definitely had a solid split. And I think that a lot of Misfits' success throughout the split has largely come off of him and Razork working so well together and helping Misfits reach the top. So a big happy birthday to HiRit. The question is, will he be gifted the gift of a win?
HiRit also typed in chat, happy birthday to me.
And then Wunder wrote, happy birthday, but you banned Sedge. And now the top laners are having a bit of a dialogue, which perhaps you'll see at a later date. In any case, in the early game, nothing too crazy happening. We can see that wards were dropped, sweepers were exchanged, and I want to look at the summoner spells. So, Exhaust into Tristana. This is the first thing I want to talk a little bit about because I've been doing a little bit more research into bot lanes recently, and there's a big, like, I don't know, like mind game exchange thing where some Tristanas, like Upset, like to run Cleanse when going to bot lanes like Braum because you expect them to run things like Exhaust. The thing about Trist is she has one of the best early game bursts in the game. Because of Halo Blades, the E, the W, that level 2 power spike is incredibly powerful, but Exhaust can just completely mitigate that. So often, Tristanas will run Cleanse to go for that early game 2 versus 2 power. But, of course, with running a Cleanse, you lose a little bit of that combat summoner. So in that window, there's actually opportunities for you to actually punish. You can see that Rekkles has decided to run the heal, which just suggests to me that they're not looking for a lot of early game aggression, not trying to force any aggressive early all-ins, because if they do, there is the risk that Exhaust could actually turn the fight in the favor of Kobbe and Vander.
For the moment, they will just get the level 2 advantage. Rekkles and Mikyx able to gain just that little bit extra minion push, and so we'll have the priority. You can see Wunder here has chugged through 2 of his Corrupting Potion stacks, but with the Grasp of the Undying and Parlay being a point-and-click 200 damage nuke, it's pretty easy for Wunder to play this lane early on. As you can see HiRit trying to trade in, Wunder just walks away scot-free.
It's one of the things that Gangplank often does, trades his HP for early trades. The passive combined with the Q is just such an effective trading tool that Gangplank can often get prio in the 1v1, but you can see that Wunder doesn't have it right now. But a lot of HP is burned from HiRit. Jankos is making his way towards the top lane. He's looking for the gank.
Remember how strong Jankos was on this XinZhao all the way back in week 1. HiRit's able to dodge away. Jankos did burn the Wind Becomes Lightning to try and close that gap, but HiRit with the Slice and Dice was able to escape.
Yeah, but the thing is, how does Razork now use this information? Because Jankos, by clearing out the Raptors and going for that top lane gank, he now can't contest the Scuttle Crab. Razork knows exactly where he is.
Veto's going to stop
Caps'
Caps back.
base is going to be interrupted, so this means that the Scuttle Crab contest is going to be much harder for the side of G2, and if Razork wants, he could even look at a double Scuttle Crab here because he does have the bot lane prio, so going for that early gank, potentially very costly for Jankos here, but with the blue buff not yet cleared out, we'll see how much he gets punished for it. Razork decided to clear his blue rather than go towards the bot, which obviously makes sense right now. What can he do off the back?
I mean, no, you can see Braum already moving up. Vander is going to try and protect this. He went up to see if that Scuttle Crab was still alive. Now they know that Jankos is probably working his way down here. You can see the pings have already come out for Misfits. Razork might look for the mid dive, but he has been spotted on a ward flash route. Jankos waited in the bush. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade as both the junglers get their first kills of the game. Jankos trying to turn this one around with the red buff. Should have a little bit more damage. Vander's worked his way up as well, and Vander's going to turn back onto Mikyx, who will have to jump across this wall. Double Scuttle should go to Razork here. TP coming in though.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if without the flash, Jankos wants to come in. It looks like he has his eyes on it. The smite comes through from Razork though, and he will secure himself the double scuttle. So rather than go for that play, he committed to the mid lane fight. Vetheo flashed in, set the lockup onto Caps, and we talked about it, mid jungle. That was going to be the prime focus in the early game, and it ends up being an even trade. With the initial first blood, I think, going in favor of Jankos. So note that Jankos does have a level down, the flash in from Vetheo into the root, both junglers going on to the respective mid laners and basically trading here. And I think that Razork would have come out on top if the trade continued to extend, only because the Braum was going to arrive first. So you can see the Jankos choosing to disengage because Mikyx was likely not going to be able to help, but now we see a bit of a fight in the bot lane.
Vander pops the Unbreakable. Root's going to come out from the Gravitum there on Kobbe, trading against his former teammate. Of course, Kobbe and Mikyx go all the way back down to the Splice days in 2016. Wunder was part of that team as well. Joined the league and then made it into Worlds. It's been a long time since they were on the same side of the rift.
It certainly has been. And in this early game, things pretty even. Small advantage for Misfits. I think that goal difference is largely coming from jungle and mid, with Razork having a slight CS lead. You can see very slight gold advantage there, but pretty much even across the board. So a dead even game in this early game. And again, I think that when we talked about the compositions, we're kind of looking at G2's stronger in the team fights. We talked a lot how impactful this Gangplank ultimate is going to be. G2 also have this very powerful wombo combo with the Orianna and the Rakan. And then you also have the late game range that the Tristana does provide. But Misfits, they have pretty strong side laners with the Ryze. They can set up a 1-4. They can have the Renekton kind of... I think the Renekton will get outscaled by the Gangplank. So I don't even think that Misfits guaranteeably have winning sides across the board. So, like, I would, early on, say that I just overall prefer G2's comp.
Looking for Kobbe here. Unbreakable goes up. Mikyx get forced away. He always used by the Misfits bottom lane, though, and no summoners burnt on the side of G2. And you can see the power of Rakan there, dodging in and out. Wunder, though, is going to face check. Does have the oranges. Eats the stun to start it off. There's the cannon barrage, and here is Jankos. Wunder has to flash away. Oranges keeps him alive, about 150 HP. Razork trying to dive in, but can't get the damage down. Jankos able to distract the Misfits jungler for long enough. However, look at where Vetheo is. There's a blast cone for him. There's a realm warp for him. But G2 will give him the respect he deserves and back away.
Good comms there from G2, showcasing that respect. Caps also a level down here. When he TP'd back into the wave, it was actually slow pushing into Vetheo after that initial gank happened. So Caps is a little bit behind in farm, you know, and usually this is a winning matchup for the Orianna, but it's understandable why he's a little bit behind early on. Misfits, though, doing a great job in this early game, continue to be proactive, and again, a lot of it comes to the credit of Razork. When we talk about Misfits early game, we often talk about how impactful he is, as we do see a big trade in the bot lane.
I think this is going to be okay. Kobbe and Vander should be fine. You can go back to talking about the power of Razork if you so desire.
But in particular, highlight his kill participation at 15 minutes. Just so much of the early game comes as a result of Razork. He is so important to the early game success, and as you just saw, he did set up that gank towards HiRit, and that's typically what what Misfits do. They usually play towards the top side of the map and try and get HiRit ahead. This is what we were talking about. The birthday boy at the beginning of the game. A lot of Misfits' success has come through the top side of the map, and they kind of transition that into strong team fighting and how well they've been able to work together, with Vetheo kind of being that consistent factor when he's able to get champions that he is very confident on. Meanwhile, G2, a lot of their investment usually goes into Caps, especially in recent weeks. He's been playing more of those lane-dominant champions, which he hasn't really had access to. And in the first half of the split, he was definitely struggling. Back into form, flashes in.
Shockwave, Jankos on the chase, Wind becomes lightning, Vetheo, no flash to get away, and Jankos will secure the kill. But as you were talking about in Vedius, G2 set it up for you.
Exactly what we come to expect, and this is what we meant. Caps usually has been playing a lot more lane-dominant champions in the second half of the split, and Jankos has been trying to take advantage of that. When you set up Caps for success, you set up the team for success, and you can see in the second half of the split, he's feeling a lot more confident, and he's been able to execute a lot more of the successful plays in the Caps that you are usually used to seeing. G2 now off that pick with the three-man squad of Mikyx, Jankos, and Caps. It's a great game to demonstrate how both teams have been playing throughout this split, particularly in their wins, and Razork is the initiator.
I mean, he can just go in with a Heartbreaker here. Mikyx has to flash away. The damage onto Jankos is big as well with the exhaust coming out from Vander. This Rift Herald will be secured by Misfits. G2 have to back away.
The biggest difference there was HiRit moved down to assist the team, whereas Wunder continued to push in the top lane. So while HiRit will lose a bit of farm, Misfits will walk away with the Herald, and they get the flash out from Mikyx. Good use of the exhaust from Vander as well. I think that Jankos would have been a little bit more willing to commit to the fight if that hadn't come through. And it ends up allowing Misfits to get a small advantage. So they sit with the ever so slight gold leads, which is now gone. So the game is pretty much dead even. So we'll see where Misfits choose to use this Herald. They have a couple options. They could use it mid against an Orianna, who typically has very good wave clear, to try and break open that tower to give Vetheo more options to roam. They could also use it top, try and accelerate the Renekton so that you have more power in the early to mid game to delay that late game Gangplank, which is so much stronger as the game progresses. Or alternatively, you could invest more money into Kobbe, kind of up to the discretion of Misfits, as the bot lane looks for a bit of a skirmish once again.
It's going to be fine. Both of them walk away. Too many minions really there for Vander and Kobbe to trade into the Winter's Bite. Not a guaranteed hit, so the Braum passive would not be guaranteed to connect onto Rekkles. And I wonder if you're Misfits here, if you're saying we want to get Vetheo out of this mid lane as soon as possible. You said in draft that the Ryze into Orianna matchup in the laning phase isn't the easiest, and you can see Vetheo has kind of been a bit of a punching bag for Jankos and Caps throughout these first 10 minutes of the game.
Well, mainly the reason why the matchup is not great is because Ryze is relatively short-ranged. So every time he tries to approach the wave to fast clear it, Orianna can trade with you using her ball, and then you can't trade back onto her. So every time you go to wave clear, you basically take a chunk of your health, and a good Orianna player will be able to just play at the edge so that you're just building these health advantages, you're chipping away at the Ryze, and so while he typically gets priority in many lanes, against an Orianna, it can be that much harder because you have to sacrifice health. But then again, Ryze can sacrifice their health in order to get that roam off, which we have already seen Vetheo do once or twice this game. So G2 now going to move towards the Drake, as Kobbe and Vander just coming back off the reset. This should be a good enough window for G2 to be able to secure this. Razork going to be a little late. But this could be an opportunity for them to actually drop the Herald bot. They do have control over the bot wave. They're going to be able to stack that one up. And again, they kind of have options here, depending on what they want to use the Herald for. I think the best play would be for Misfits to drop it mid, take a couple more of those plates, engage from G2.
I mean, Mikyx can just jump in and out very easily here, and that's all they're trying to do, is chunk out Vander so that when he gets back to the lane, he's a little bit less HP. But the gods of the Rift have been kind to the Braum today, as they give him a honey fruit to chow down on. And he's back up to about half HP, and now it's Razork and Vander teaming up. However, they have walked over a lot of vision. Caps knows they're here. We'll be able to force him away. Mikyx looking for the engage, has the quickness. They dive onto Vander. Vander flashes away. Mikyx still has that ultimate in his back pocket. For the moment, Vander will just have to burn his flash to escape. And you can see pings coming out from Misfits up towards the top side. Vetheo has the Realm Warp about to come off cooldown. TPO available for him as well, but the wind becomes lightning. Will catch him. Moon Prison onto Jankos. Razork turns back around. He's being pulled around the map just a little bit. Great shot. Fisher a bit short. There's Mikyx going in, holding onto the quickness, holding onto that Rakan ultimate. Didn't need it to disengage the Misfits' aggression.
The Gangplank ultimate is still up. Both top laners have TP, but neither team deciding to hard commit. I really like that we're seeing a lot of investment into the mid lane from both sides. We know that both Orianna and Ryze can be very big late game threats, but in slightly different ways. I think one of the other big things for Misfits is that even though Ryze usually doesn't have the same teamfight power, it also depends on what he's against. When you look at the front line from G2, not actually that many tanks. Of course, the range could be problematic for him, trying to get close against the Xin, the GP ultimates, the Orianna. Again, we've already highlighted G2 should have the stronger 5v5, but getting Razork ahead, Vetheo rather ahead so that he can play off to the side lane is going to be important. Now, we talked about the options for the Rift Herald. None of them were played for.
I mean, technically it's played for bot. Placed for bot.
Yeah, but it's going to get cleared. You can already see G2 moving towards the bot side of that. Blue buff going to be handed off to Caps. Wunder using his TP bot, but has the Wunder using TP top, but has the ultimate for bot.
I think this gets a charge in. I'll be honest. Caps is on his way Orianna's on his way. Razork going in there looking for the damage, but there's the quickness coming out from Mikyx. He's going to dive away. Moonlight Vigil used as well, and Kobbe now in the firing line. There's a shockwave flash away from by Razork. Riftherald will get a charge in. Importantly, Razork does get that gold. Rekkles jumping forward, Razork jumping away. So the Herald got a charge in, gold pretty much even, as it was a kill over to G2.
We did talk about, though, how the Gangplank ultimate can be used in that exchange. I think Misfits committed a little too hard to guarantee that the Rift Herald did connect, but as you rightly said, Vetheo gets plates in mid, they were able to get a couple plates in bot, and it only really cost them Vander and a couple of summoner spells. So in terms of overall gold, Misfits still feeling pretty comfortable. So let's have a look back at this fight. You can see a huge commitment on to Mikyx. He's using his mobility to try and buy a little bit of time. He goes to the disengage. The shockwave plus ultimate comes through, forces the flash out from Razork. The exhaust comes down onto Jankos, but it doesn't stop them from getting that initial kill. Good ultimate there from Razork to be able to avoid any initial damage or any further damage. And that means that Misfits end up getting away with a couple plates in their back pocket.
Yeah, it was 3 plates overall for Misfits, 1 in the mid lane, 2 in the bottom lane, so 480 gold gained for them. Is that right?
Just a trade of experience and gold overall.
Mikyx now chunked out. Does still have the flash. Rakan, one of the safest supports if you have a teammate near you. Of course, you can just dodge away to it. Tower goes down in the bottom lane, but plates have already gone down, so not as much gold over to Misfits as it could have been. But because of that, they have got a 1,000 gold advantage here, Vedius. And that Aphelios is getting stronger by the moment. Misfits here fighting pretty well against G2, as expected from the start of their season, although I think a lot of people would agree that Misfits have been faltering a little bit when it comes to the second half of summer.
Yeah, I think that they've kind of... I think many teams believed Misfits to do what they have often done, which is kind of fall off towards the second half. It's one of those situations where they had a very good start, but consistency has always been a big problem for them. And I think Razork was actually one of the players that was criticized a lot for his consistency, where he would have huge performance games, and then he would falter in a couple others. And when a team is so reliant on his early game, that obviously influences the team's success. But this player, I think he's been a lot more consistent. He's definitely made a couple of mistakes, but not to the degree that has cost him and his team. And he's been a reliable jungler. I think one of the best performing junglers, actually, of the entire split. But that jungle role is quite contested here in Europe. We surprisingly have quite a few good ones along with our bot laners. The Drake now is spawning in about 5 seconds. You can see that G2 currently have this initial setup, but there are a couple of flank...
Oh, Mikyx. He's going to get stunned. Glacial Fissure will knock him up. He has the flash, has the cannon barrage to distract Misfits, but Mikyx has lost his ability to engage with that flash down. Does still have the quickness. TP used by Vetheo to the mid lane. It looks like G2 will just disengage from this dragon. Misfits will start it up. It's an Ocean Drake. Means we'll either have a Cloud or an Infernal Soul. G2 still sitting in a strong position if Misfits try and take a shortcut towards that mid lane. Razork and Vander will go that way, but I think G2 are just going to go back to the fountain and reset. Mikyx spotted. Can still just dodge back to Rekkles.
So because Mikyx was caught out and that initial play and the GP ultimate was used so early, and the fact that HiRit had already roamed to bot meant that G2 was not in a position to contest the Drake, and so they end up conceding it. Rekkles now making his way up towards the top side of the map. He is not with his support, obviously, because he just based. Wunder very close to securing that tower, and Vander just being a pain right now, as this is a really good opportunity for Misfits to just start off the Herald, because they know both Wunder and Rekkles want to reset. But will they actually do so? They are still hovering around. Rekkles has just spent a lot of time walking. Walked up to top.
Only got short legs as well on that Tristana. Takes him a lot longer to get anywhere.
Here comes the contest. No GP ult.
So it's a 3v4 in favor of G2. Now
no
a 5v4, as they will just be able to take the Herald away. Earlier we saw Misfits contesting and taking G2's Herald. Now G2 will return the favor.
I think they need to drop this mid right now. They should have spotted Razork in his side of the jungle, and they should be aware that he's looking to reset, and they're going to do exactly that. Like this play from G2, use this small window where Misfits is trying to reset to be able to secure yourself another tower, and unsurprisingly, the gold goes back to dead even. But I think it's worth coming back to the compositions. We talked about how I just think the G2's comp really does outscale in this situation. What Misfits really needed to do was get their solo laners ahead. The Renekton is now behind the Gangplank. The Ryze, while kind of having decent starts, didn't really get that many advances. He's looking for a play on a Wunder.
This is the first Q, but the chase is on. There's the Spectral Morm, and Wunder doesn't really have anywhere to go. He tries to get away, but Razork will take him down today. Second kill of the game for Misfits and for the Viego.
A little unfortunate for Vetheo that he doesn't get that kill, but getting the kill onto Wunder is still a net advantage overall for Misfits. They should be able to secure that top tower as well, and I don't think G2 is going to be able to do anything off the back of it. So overall, good pick for Misfits. And they need to keep these picks going, keep attacking the side lanes as G2 found a pick of their own.
And Vander has Kobbe to jump to, and he still has the Guardian, so he's pretty safe just to walk his way out of there. Mikyx just trying to chunk him out whenever he has the opportunity, but nothing really on the map for them to get out of that. No Dragon, no neutral objectives. All they can really do is look to play for vision down towards this bottom side and perhaps to catch out HiRit, but HiRit still has the flash. And although Caps is sitting on a Ludens, HiRit will be able to get underneath this tower. Now the question is, do G2 go for the dive? Jankos stunned up, Crescent Guard comes out, there's Cannon Barrage as well, and the answer is yes, they do go for the dive. As in a 4v1 with an extra ultimate on top of it, G2 knew that they could win out.
That is 4 members committed though, and HiRit was able to push out the bot wave, so G2 don't have a wave to be able to contest that bot's tier 1. Meanwhile, Kobbe is completely uncontested in mid, and he secures himself a free 300 gold. This also gives control over the top side of the map for Misfits, and they're looking to get another pick onto Wunder. He's playing relatively safe though. His wave clear is pretty good at this point in the game with the Sundra and the Tiamat. So he's just going to play defensive because he knows that his team is not in the vicinity. But overall, I believe net gain for Misfits off the back of that play. Good job from HiRit recognizing that the best thing he could do there was just push and disengage as G2 is desperate to get something back on the map.
Yeah, and the gold lead has fluctuated between 500 gold in Misfits' favor, 500 gold in G2's favor, up to about 1,000 at most at any point in this game. It's a very neck-and-neck affair so far. If you look at the standings, you can see just how much it means for both these teams to pick up these wins. Of course, G2 lock playoffs with this win. It would be the 11th time in a 12th time in a row that they have locked playoffs. Have made it every single season they've been in the LEC. Misfits, though, looking to fight for that first spot. They need all of the championship points they can get. And a win here against G2 will put them in good stead for the rest of summer.
And that's the important clarification that we need to make. When we say lock playoffs, we're still a long way from locking seeding. Championship points from spring will influence your seeding in playoffs, but that's only once you've qualified. And for Misfits, while they have locked a spot in the playoffs, their seeding is still yet to be determined, especially when they had no championship points from spring. We will, of course, keep you guys updated as we move into week 8, but those championship points are very important.
I have actually just been talking to Condor Kevin, our producer, as well, and he said we're going to do a championship points segment for PGL. So if you're confused about it, stick around for PGL. I will run over towards the wall on the other side of the studio. They didn't need to know that bit of information, but that's where I'll be, and I'll give you a rundown of how championship points work and how they're going to affect our teams going into week 8.
Dr. Medic and his playoff checkup.
Oh yeah.
Always keeping you guys up to date. As a reminder, you can follow the LoL Esports stats on Twitter, along with Medic, to keep up to date as we get closer and closer to playoffs. Now, back to the game. The Drake is spawning in 4 seconds. G2 have control over it. Misfits is looking to contest. Everyone is here. Time for a fight.
Everyone's at 2 items as well. Very important. Both the AD carries and the mid laners have their 2 items complete. You said it was a fight, Betty. Yep. Looks like Misfits willing to give this one up because it's only the 2nd dragon of the game. Mikyx may be caught out, dodges away with the grand entrance, uses it as a bit of an exit, but Misfits get mid-prio and don't really get much more out of that as G2 take the dragon.
Yeah, and I think that G2 can continue to just chill. They know that they scale really well. They know that as long as they control the Drakes, they're going to keep getting to force fights. Wunder is now getting further and further ahead of this Renekton, and he's going to keep scaling. You can see that they've moved Vetheo off into the side lane. No magic resistance on Wunder, so Vetheo should be able to hold his own in the 1v1, especially as you rightly said, with 2 items being completed across the board. But I still think that this GP ultimate is going to be so big in the team fights. How will Kobbe be able to dish out the damage? Razork by himself right now.
I was just wondering if Rekkles was going to be willing to jump in there. With the Spectral Maw already down, perhaps Rekkles a little bit worried that he could get burst down. Has gone for the Kraken Slayer Tristana. You can see a little bit more self-preservation on the Aphelios with the Immortal Shield Bone, knowing that perhaps he could get burst out pretty quickly by a combination of Cannon Barrage and a Shockwave. Vander will stop Jankos' back here, but really both these teams not a huge amount to play for at this 23-minute mark. Just getting the extra items, getting those extra CS, and trying to gain vision control.
Well, so these windows, where there are no objectives to play for, are where Misfits are actually at their strongest, because they can play for picks, they can use things like the Realm Warp to try and attack the side lanes, and you can see that on the side lanes, both Wunder and Caps are not overextending. They actually stay closer to their tower, wait for the waves to come to them, and then they'll clear out the farm because they realize the longer this game goes on, the stronger we're going to be. We don't want to overcommit, overstep, and allow Misfits to find a pick. And that is what Misfits is trying to force right now. You can see them constantly testing the waters, looking for opportunities, trying to control the river, control this vision, and see if they can catch G2 off guard. But for the moment, G2 holds strong.
That's why some of these slightly deeper G2 wards are so important for the team, because they can see Misfits setting up a flank. They saw HiRit trying to get into the mid lane from the bottom side on a ward that has now expired. They saw the fact that Vetheo was waiting in the bush on the ward in that top side river, and because of that, they could then group up, make sure no one overextends into the Ryze, who, although 0-2-2, will be able to burst someone down or at least get them down below half HP in a single rotation. So G2 playing well around their own vision and making Misfits sweat for any sort of opportunity.
All right, Medic, do you know what time it is?
No, 9:30 p.m.
No, okay. That was like a rhetorical question.
Well then, why didn't you say something afterwards?
Do you know what the time is, Medic?
Hammer time.
No, it's golden time because stopwatches are starting to come through. You can see the stopwatch now completed for Vetheo.
It would have been... Yep. I don't mean to give you... Are you ready for feedback?
No, I'm not.
Okay, I'm not going to give you any feedback about that. Just like next time, let's have more than 2 stopwatches.
I was trying to funny, you know what I mean? Because it was, because it's like, what's the time? Because it's a slow game, I was trying to be funny, lighten the mood, keep the fans engaged. Like, oh, Medi, they're so funny. And you ruined it because you're not funny.
Right? I mean, I don't understand comedy, so.
True.
Right now, though, G2 pushing in this top lane with Wunder. You can see Rekkles and Mikyx trying to act just as extra numbers, extra men off towards that side. Spectral Maw coming out, just a little bit short. It's the first time, as you say, we have seen Wunder push past that halfway mark in the split. Hey, Vedi.
Yeah?
You know what time it is?
No, I don't know what time it is.
9:30 p.m. CEST.
Oh, okay. This is your version of comedy. You're really proud of that, weren't you? You're really proud of that. All right, well, the next Drake spawns in about a minute's time. This will likely be the next objective that both teams are looking to contest for. We might get a fight, but I'm not going to promise anything. We're at 6 kills, 25 minutes into the game.
And this isn't actually really how G2 have played. Like, just to bring it back to a playstyle thing, G2 historically in the LEC and even in the second half of the season have been a high combined kills a minute team.
Well, yeah, I think that's true. I just, G2 have had many different versions.
Lots of iterations, but they've always been a team that likes to fight. They've always been good at fighting.
I mean, yeah.
Take the fight to you. They don't need to with this comp.
But, well, no, they will fight.
Yeah, eventually.
Eventually, you know what I mean? So they can still have those high team fight stats. They're getting the prio in mid right now. They don't have the bot wave push, so Misfits have control over the river, but all these control ones are going to be cleared out.
Sneaky beaky. Sneaky beaky. Stun's going to land onto Jankos there.
HiRit does have the TP, a little bit late to the party.
Misfits are quite split here, and Mikyx was spotted on a ward off towards the top side. Razork.
Keep an eye on this bot wave right now, because it is sort of slow pushing in Misfits' favor, and as long as they have that control, they still have an avenue to get into the river.
Okay. Mikyx still waiting.
The mid wave has now come back. Both teams are just ignoring it for now. Wunder, where is he going to put that ultimate down?
He's going to ult over the wall here.
That's big.
And the thing is, as you said, you don't have to fight this if you're Misfits. Obviously, you want to fight because G2 are scaling well, but it's only third dragon of the game.
I think Misfits do have to fight.
You think they've got to take it?
Goes, you don't want to allow G2 to be on sole point. I think this is an important Drake, and they're going to contest it. Look at Vander on the flank.
Razork looking to get in. Jankos dives onto HiRit. Dominus pop. Mikyx on the back line. But Mikyx is burst before he can do too much. Kobbe trying to do the damage as he can. Infernal Drake goes down 1-for-1 trade so far. Actually 1-for-0. As Misfits are able to disengage. Cap still has the shockwave, has burnt his flash, and Misfits' health bars are ticking low. However, G2 will just settle for their second Infernal.
So I do hope we get a replay of that, because I don't know why Caps didn't use his ult. I thought that was just going to be an immediately one team fight the second Mikyx got his knockup. So let's watch Caps here. So he throws the ball out, QW, the engage comes through from Jankos. You can see Mikyx with the ult, follow up. So what happens to Caps here?
Just doesn't press R.
He just doesn't press R. I'm not entirely sure why. I thought that was a perfect opportunity there. I could understand if he was being zoned away, but the follow-up doesn't come through. He then just flashes out of the fight. I mean, of course, it still works out for G2. They still get themselves the Infernal Drake, but surprising. I didn't see any obvious reason as to why Caps didn't drop the ultimate there. Perhaps I did miss something, but yeah, very surprising to not see that ultimate come through.
Yeah, but perhaps one of those things where he holds it because he knows that Razork can go invulnerable and Kobbe's flashing away, but...
I don't know. It looked
like a very good opportunity for a shockwave.
Like a good opportunity, and again, maybe I'm missing something, but yeah, very surprising from Caps. In any case, G2 still come out on top. Right now, they're setting up around the Baron.
Mikyx jumping in, HiRit chunked out as G2, as you say, gain control around the Baron. Vetheo is in the bottom lane, 300 CS on that Ryze at the 28-minute mark, farming up a Storm, but not really having the impact in the game and in the team fights that he would have liked. G2, though, are on a bit of a timer with this Baron play. You can see immediately as they see Vetheo go for that next wave, they will start it up. Vetheo leaving the wave and looking for the TP. Cannon Barrage just comes up for Wunder, as the Baron is down to 8,000 HP, and with Vetheo TPing in, G2 will disengage.
I think that was the play. G2 just wanted to force the TP out from Vetheo. They know he's the big split push threat that they have to be concerned about. At 3 items now, he is definitely strong in the side lane, and Wunder not having any magic resistance means that he is definitely going to lose out in that 1v1. So by forcing him to join the fight, it puts Misfits in a slightly more awkward position, but they are going to convert this into a tier 2 in mid, so they're not going to lose too much off the back of that.
Wunder. Razork immediately meets him in the jungle, and Wunder puts down the Cannon Barrage. Glacial Fissure coming out, Rekkles knocked up by it. Will jump away, Razork down to half HP. Kobbe misses the Moonlight Vigil. Dodge to the side there by G2, and you can see Misfits were looking for a pick in a tower, but couldn't quite find the pick on Wunder.
Surprisingly durable Gangplank there. I like the play from Misfits, setting up that potential dive, and the rotation from G2 allowing them to get that pick on Wunder. Doesn't result in anything though. Flash burnt from Vander, but they do get that mid tier 2. So the gold's still dead even between the two teams, but we're getting closer and closer to that soul point, and Misfits will be forced to fight. We're yet to see a big team fight outside of that one in mid, which Misfits were actually able to, well, the last streak that Misfits was actually able to come out on top of. But I think that these fights are only going to get harder for Misfits. They want to keep Vetheo in a side lane. They want to keep him generating pressure and try and split this G2 roster up where they can try and find themselves a pick. But I feel like, I've already said it, the longer this game goes, the harder it's going to be for Misfits to play the 5v5.
And of course, it becomes harder for Vetheo as well to be on a side lane because he expended his TP to get to that Baron play. Now G2 have double TPs available, Wunder and Caps. Wunder always has the Cannon Barrage as well, which has that global pressure you get from a Gangplank, and you see it now. It's HiRit in the bottom lane, matching that wave, catching that wave. A minute and a half on the Infernal Soul. Possibility for G2, still only 1,000 gold between the two teams, but I think we have very much seen the compositional difference come to fruition here for G2. However, you cannot look past an Aphelios when it comes to team fights. You cannot look past the power of Ryze and Aphelios when it comes to doing big bursts of AoE damage. And if they can set up effectively around this, perhaps they can catch out G2.
I like what Misfits doing here. They often play through bots. It's where they've gotten a lot of their control. And again, it gives them access into the river so they can still contest this Drake. But G2, they're responding kind by pressuring the tier 2 in mid. Vetheo doesn't quite have the wave clear to stop this 4-man siege. Gangplank is going to catch the bot wave. Now Misfits looking for the opportunity. HiRit's already here.
Razork has the Spectral Maw. HiRit here, as you say. Jankos trying to get away, but there's the root. Rekkles rooted on the backline. HiRit jumping in. The Crescent Guard's going to do a lot of work here for Jankos, and now HiRit is the one who has the flash for safety. Cannon Barrage comes out. Locket used. Mikyx dives in with the charm, and HiRit's down. And he saved the shockwave for that moment. Caps hits it. Kobbe will not quite fall. He'll be the last one standing as Rekkles is jumping forward, looking for the kill. Gets the speed up from the Orianna. One auto attack and a satchel ticking. And Kobbe says a final goodbye. Rekkles takes the shutdown. G2 take the fight. And for the 12th time in a row, G2 will lock their spot in playoffs.
A clean ace for G2 as they round out their game against Misfits. We talked about it. It was a matter of time. But that team fight, yeah, it's kind of what we expected. Like, Misfits tried to use that window where the Gangplank wasn't there to force, but you could see how quickly G2 disengaged, and then when the re-engage came through, what could the Aphelios do? The Gangplank ultimate dropped on top of him. The Renekton couldn't find a successful engage. And I mean, that was something we didn't talk about. Misfits, they didn't actually have the strongest engage tools anyway. So in the small windows where they wanted to fight, it really didn't work out in their favor, and I think a lot of credit needs to go towards this Gangplank pick. I think it did so much. Not only would it outscale the Renekton later on, but the ultimate had so much value into both the Ryze and the Aphelios, and it made it so difficult for Misfits to be able to play out the game. So well played from G2, definitely ending with a big 2-0 week and looking much better as they move into the final week of the regular season.
Yeah, their second half of the split has been much improved, and they kept saying trust the process, trust what Nelson is bringing to the team. It's slowly seeming to pay off. Of course, Misfits, on the other hand, already qualified for playoffs. Will be a difficult road for them to get one of those top 4 spots because of how many points everyone else made in spring, but they do still have the opportunities next week as they face off against Fnatic, SK, and Mad Lions. And although our top 5 spots in playoffs are locked, that seeding is yet to be decided. Your key player of the game votes at LEC on Twitter. Jankos, Rekkles, and Mikyx are all viable options.
Very viable. A little sad Wunder's not on there. I know that his Gangplank wasn't super impactful, but I think the pick in and of itself was so good. So maybe
yeah, so
MVP
then Grab should be there, yeah.
You mean Nelson?
Oh yeah, it was a good draft pick, so yeah.
Of course, we're only kidding. But yes, beautiful stuff from the side of G2. Misfits still in a good position. A lot of teams right now fighting for those seedings in playoffs, but with 5 spots taken, that 6th spot is going to be very contested. We'll soon hear from Mikyx before SK Treats joins us in the LEC post-game lobby. So don't you go anywhere. More LEC action coming your way.
Systems are overloading. We can't risk another game.
We need to take a break and regroup.
We're starting to lose our mind. Captain, we cannot go back to Elo Hell. Last time it took us months to get out of it.
Initiate break protocol.
Hurry up!
Yes! Yes! I did it! We did it! We did it!
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Welcome back from the break as G2 continues to look strong as they take down Misfits Gaming and take their revenge from round 1. Mickey, thank you for joining me. Was that a strategic decision to not take the game to the Dragon Soul and avoid the Elder Drake fight?
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about it, that maybe we should not really let Elder Drake spawn. And I mean, honestly, we could have ended the game maybe on the 3rd Drake. But yeah, I think I landed 3-man ult, but my Orianna was not ready. So then the fight after, I had to tell him beforehand, I'm going in. Are you ready? So then he was ready, and then we ended the game. So yeah, it was longer than it had to be because, you know, Orianna had to be a bit micromanaged, but it happens.
Overall, like, your Rakan had a lot of impact throughout the game, and we've been seeing a lot of Rakan in LEC recently. Can you please let me know what Rakan brings to the table when someone decides to pick Rakan into their comp?
I mean, I think most people just kind of pick it into Braum, and that's like kind of why we decided to pick it. It's also a good lane with Tristana. It's good into Aphelios, and we're also kind of planning to play Orianna, and Orianna Rakan is like a pretty strong teamfight combo. And also, with Rakan, you kind of need some frontline, so Xin kind of filled that role as well. And Xin also can serve as the primary engage, and Rakan is really good at following up. So I think that's usually... I think it was a really good game for Rakan, yeah.
Overall, this was like a really strong delivery from G2, and you guys finished the week on 2-0. Like, another of the narratives around G2 has been trust the process, we are improving, you know, believing what Nelson is bringing to the table. Are you happy with the progress that G2 has been recently making in the LEC?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Like, I think compared to Spring Split, we are much more versatile and I think just better. Even though the regular split, last split was better, like score-wise. I think we're still better this time around, even though, well, we just made playoffs now. I think we're like the 5th team to make it. But yeah, I still feel pretty confident that in playoffs we can win it all, yeah.
This is a question that I also asked to Jankos recently, but now that G2 has a few more wins under their belt, as well as made it to the playoffs, by the way, congratulations, where would you realistically put G2 in the standing in terms of their pure performance and form and delivery?
I think right now, I would probably put us like, around 3rd. But, because yeah, we still have some stuff to work on, and I feel like Rogue and Fnatic are better than us currently. But yeah, I think with some more time, we're gonna be the best, yeah.
And today we saw a lot of upsets, you know, Mad Lions taking Rogue down and Fnatic also taking a loss away from their match. What are your confidence level on the playoffs that now you have made it? Because in the Spring Split, everyone believes in G2 in all the playoffs, but this was the first final in a while where G2 didn't necessarily make it to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just kind of learned a lot from last split, and well, we probably won't make the same mistakes again. And I think it kind of shows in our play right now. I think we're doing a lot better. I think our early games got much better. Drafts as well, very important part of the game that we improved on. And yeah, especially with, I guess, Rogue and Fnatic dropping some games, it gives us more hope as well that, well, we can probably beat them in a few weeks when we play them. So yeah.
Can I please ask you to iterate on what are some of the mistakes that you wanted to improve for this season? Because earlier you actually said that, hey, we look like we were in a better form in the spring season.
I think a big part was not playing very well as a team. I think drafting was a problem. Champion pool, early game was sometimes a bit rough. I think we were really behind a lot of the games in the early game. And yeah, we didn't really have a lot of game plans, it felt like. But now we always have some kind of game plan in the early game that we play around. And yeah, it's much easier to actually proceed with the game. And our Drake setups are much better, so yeah.
Oh wow, thank you for your insights, and good to see G2 continue to rise towards the LEC. Congratulations again on making it to the playoffs, and best of luck for the rest of the LEC.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and after the break, we'll be back with post-match lobby joined by Dracos, Kajol, and SK Treats. See you right back.